I am not a visual novel YouTuber, so to speak. And actually, I'm not even a YouTuber in general, and neither do I want to be honest. But sometimes you just play a visual novel that catches you by surprise so much that you just have to yap about it into the ether. Okay, so I love the medium that is visual novels, but for some reason, there was like a 4 or 5 year period of time when I just all of a sudden stopped playing them at all. Now, thinking back on it, that was probably because in that same period of time, I was getting more into anime and watching like 100 seasons of anime a year, so visual novels at the time were probably genuinely just crossing my mind because I was too busy being waist deep in 100 episodes of Love Live or some shit. But you know, I really liked visual novels and I eventually realized, wait, I haven't played a visual novel in ages. I should probably fix this. And I'm just like, you know, I have a Switch. Switch is a great system for JRPGs, I'd imagine it'd be great for visual novels too. So I looked around for lists of like best visual novels on Switch or whatever, and stuff like that. And I was just like, okay, Switch has good stuff like Clannad, Canon, stuff like that. But those are a little bit longer than what I want to try out just now. So I'll look for something shorter to start off with as my first visual novel in ages. And so I eventually decided on this sci-fi looking visual novel with an interesting art style and character design, aka the visual novel this video is about. And it's called this name. I mistakenly thought it was Gnosia, but then I started actually playing it and realized it's probably Gnosia, because, you know, collective unconscious, gnosis, Greek for knowledge, stuff like that. Or maybe it's Gnosia, I don't know. And I played it, and it really surprised me. It was way better than I expected, and I became just so addicted to playing it. Like, right now I'm looking at my playtime for the game, and I have 35 hours in it. And it's not even a 35-hour game, it's just like 15 to 20 hours kinda. Those extra hours are just of me just playing more of the game, trying to do a bunch of random extra stuff that doesn't count towards completion percentage, and just messing around, having fun, starting up a new playthrough and seeing what things in the story were set up earlier, and to see if I can pick up on stuff, and choosing different dialogue options, and seeing how scenes change based around that. Basically, I've just been having a blast with this game, and to be honest, I just didn't think that this is how I would have been feeling about this game before I played it. Okay, so if for some reason you are watching this video but have no idea what this game is, I'll give a synopsis. So essentially, the game takes place on this spaceship somewhere in the distant future. You have no idea who you are or why you're here, but you immediately get informed of some kind of discussion process on the ship with the other people on board, because apparently the spaceship's artificial intelligence system detected the presence of something called the Gnosia, some kind of interdimensional presence that seemingly only purpose is to wipe out humanity. But no one can really tell who on the ship is secretly Gnosia. So you and the other shipmates have to talk amongst each other and see if you can catch any suspicious behaviour to figure out who trusts you, who doesn't trust you, who wants to collaborate with you, who thinks who else is Gnosia, who is trying to throw you under the bus, all that kind of stuff. But even when the Gnosia is found out, or the Gnosia kills you, the entire game resets. And, as it turns out, there's also a time loop / universe resetting mechanic to this game as well, where the settings of each loop, so to speak, are changed up and more characters with their own unique quirks and skill sets and deduction skills are added to the lineup. And different rules get added to the gameplay loop, like engineers who every night can choose one person who they investigate to see if they're really human or not. Guard duty who are guaranteed humans but as a result are easy pickings for the Gnosia. Or guardian angels who can choose to protect one person per night against attacks from the Gnosia. And all the while this goes on, one of the crew members is also stuck in their own time loop right alongside you, and figuring out the mystery across the timelines. And yeah, if you for some reason are watching this video without knowing about this game, and that synopsis sounds interesting, then I'd urge you to play the game for yourself, because hearing me yap a bunch of nonsense about it for the rest of this video just won't be doing it any justice. And I just kinda sorta delved into a little bit of spoiler territory just then, so yeah, if you're now genuinely interested in this game, go play it. It's fairly cheap. But yeah, to grossly oversimplify it, it's a visual novel version of Among Us. It's got the typical but still good sci-fi premise of there being an otherworldly enemy amongst the crowd. When I first heard about this game, and even all the way up until I actually started playing the game, I really didn't think too much of it, and neither did I know what to think of it. I basically heard nothing about it. I had no idea an anime for it was about to be airing either. Neither did I even realise there was an anime currently airing even as I was playing it. But I certainly didn't expect something like this. Like, I sure as hell didn't expect it to be a visual novel with an actual gameplay loop. Like, that's just not something visual novels usually have. Well, okay, there's probably tons of visual novels that are like that, with repeatable gameplay like typical games have, but none of the ones I have played. When you normally think of these social deduction kind of games, they're usually multiplayer, and you're trying to suss out actual humans. So it being individual characters, each with their own quirks that you can keep track of, is just such an interesting idea for a game. And yeah, I'm sure it's been done before in other games, but this is the first time I'm seeing it, and I think it's cool. And the time looping aspect, I think is really cool too. I think I just may have a fondness for whatever you call the story trope of time loop stories, where a whole myriad of bad things happen across all these different loops through time. Steins Gate, ReZero, Summertime Rendering, you know, that sort of thing. Basically, where you can get a glimpse of bad ending that wouldn't normally happen in other games or shows, because even though it would be interesting, it's just not narratively satisfying to have every named character be killed off screen by an angry alien slime. And having that actually happen but be undone like they came back to life or whatever would be the opposite of narratively satisfying. So it being something that is already set up as being a time loop mechanic, but you also establish, hey, bad things happen on this ship, and just have things go wild from there. I just think it's so fun watching these events unfold. And I also quite like the characters in this game, both in gameplay with the whole social deduction stuff, and you have to pay attention to their quirks and skill sets within the debates, but also just as regular characters. Even if it's not a traditional visual novel where there's roots with multiple long character-focused scenes and complex romancing systems. I just think this is a really neat cast. Like there's Setsu, and well, is it a surprise that after finishing this game, Setsu is immediately among my favorites? Just so much characterization through the whole experience, and just having someone that is experiencing these loops alongside you, even if not in the same order. It's nice to have a companion, and I think Setsu is a really effective one. And not to be confused with Setsu, there's SQ, who is such an agent of chaos. Like, one of the later scenes in this game where SQ talks about herself, I think she admits to just being a pathological liar, so I wonder if that's part of the gameplay. Like, I wonder if she just genuinely stirs chaos just for the lols in some of those discussions, because that would explain so much of her behaviour during some of those discussions in some of the runs I've had. And Gina is a character I've really become quite fond of the more of the game I played, especially when going for completion stuff. Like, it really got me to pay attention to her character and the specific personality of her character within the discussions. Like, the whole thing of her having very good intuition but having no confidence in said intuition, like, she was just kind of forgettable for the first many hours of the game, but I think by the end she's an easy top 3 favourite for me. Stella was quite a cool character. The fact that the AI system of the ship was actually her the entire game, that was a cool reveal. And Shugamichi, he was an amusing lad. Pretty much the only outright joke character in the game, but he never overstayed his welcome. I will say though, throughout so many of the debate discussion sections, he would so often be sentenced to cold sleep first, even if they had no reason to suspect him, and he was completely innocent. Like, this dude could not catch a break, at least in my playthroughs. Comet was a pretty cool character too. Like, I feel like character-wise she's not all that interesting, but I found her quite fun. Her eldritch symbiotic slime thing is a disturbing implication for her existence though. And she's what really introduces the cool things in this game regarding the different skill sets of the characters with the discussions, and how Comet is atrociously bad at lying, but she's really good at spotting them. Like, being the Gnosia in the early game and having Comet there, it's a challenge. But yeah, Comet was fun to have around. And Jonas is amazingly weird. Like, he just speaks so much absolute nonsense. Like, this dude has lost his mind, but he's also hiding so many secrets with stuff like Stella and Kakroshka in the ship. He's a fascinating fellow. And I'm not going to go over every single character in this game, but Yuriko. Man, Yuriko is just so interesting. And damn is she formidable in the discussions. Like, if she wants to try and make an enemy out of you, she is so hard to go against if you don't have too many skills to combat her. And I find it so interesting how she's the one character who doesn't have her own Gnosia portrait when everyone's roles are revealed. She just remains the same. Though apparently there is this sprite, which I think is an unused sprite of her as a Gnosia, and it's kind of horrifying, so maybe we should be thankful it wasn't used. But yeah, her expression's barely changing and how subdued her emotions are, and then all the mysterious stuff of her distorting perception, and the frankly amazing imagery of her putting her hand to your face. Yeah, she is definitely one of my favourites coming out of this game. As the cool kids say, she has aura. And can I just say, the designs of all these characters are just so interesting and unique. Like, 14 main characters is a lot for a visual novel, especially one where you kinda need to keep track of them all to play effectively. But they all feel very distinct and unique from one another with their own alien/futuristic-ish quirks. Though, I will say, there's a lot of official art that really makes Stella, Shuming, and no makeup Arakio, and also this character called Yuri, who is apparently the anime original protagonist. Yeah, it makes all four of those guys look way too similar to one another, since they all have short greenish hair. But that's never really a problem in-game though. And the art style in general is just very nice, and actually something that really struck out to me when looking through visual novels to play, because the image of SQ on the cover is really all I had to go off, and it's certainly very striking. And I think the way this game is written and how the scenes are done is really interesting. This game is very, very brief with its writing. Like, it's almost all entirely dialogue. Like, there's barely any narration, and the narration that is used feels just like more dialogue, but from the thoughts of the main character. Which is really interesting because otherwise the main character gets no characterization. Like, they're just a straight self-insert otherwise. I guess one way to describe would be the opposite of verbose. And I don't mind verbose or overly descriptive writing at all if it's done well, and not done to a ridiculous level, but having something in a format primarily based around writing be fairly brief with its writing is quite refreshing, and not something I really see in visual novels aside from some of those really crappy faux visual novels that people would make YouTubers play in the 2010s. But as such, when there is any special scenes, they are also quite brief, and assuming you don't read very slowly, most won't even be longer than even 5 minutes aside from some really, really important mandatory story scenes. But the standout scenes in this game are still quite memorable, especially some of those "this loop has gone horribly wrong" scenes. Pretty much every single creepy scene involving Kakrushka was a highlight of my playthrough, because the creepiness of those scenes is just done so well. It's to a point to where I would always get more and more weary of Kakrushka in future loops, even if she wants to team up with me and the text says, "Oh, Kakrushka looks at you fondly with a smile." I just can't fully bring myself to trust her from all the insane stuff I saw her do in previous loops with those blank expressionless eyes. And those scenes are something I'm really looking forward to in the anime, to see how they adapted those scenes into an animated medium. Like, will it become creepier when it moves, or is it just being a static, non-moving image what makes those scenes so creepy to begin with? And also SQ steals a lot of the show in terms of scenes, the quote-unquote SQ romance scene being particularly very good and emotional. And I didn't know when to mention this, so I'll mention it now, but the OST is really interesting, particularly the title screen theme. It is so bizarre. When I first booted up the game, I thought that something was wrong with my headphones, or my Switch was too old and wasn't producing the sound correctly, or something like that. But then you listen to it more, and the track progresses, and you begin to understand it just enough, while still having it be weird and unorthodox as the first piece of music you hear in the game, to still feel weirded out by it whenever you go back to the title screen. These vocals that you hear a lot throughout some tracks in the game are so interesting. It's almost the kind of thing I'd imagine an alien choir to sound like. Like, it strides the line to where it works both in just regular nice emotional scenes, as well as more creepier scenes where the light singing vocals are more ironic. Yeah, I don't have much else to say other than it's just really interesting and I like it. And the stuff involving uncovering the true ending hit just the right balance of being easily realistically findable, satisfying enough when you do find it, just making sense with the natural progression of unlocking stuff and the mechanics of the story of the game with different universes and looping, while also not just being handed to you. You have to actually stop and think instead of just mindlessly playing. But the normal ending is still decently satisfying enough. It's just that if you want just that little bit more closure with these characters, you can start up a new save file and then see a new ending set of scenes. And it plays so well with some of Setsu's characterization earlier in the game, with really wanting there to eventually be a loop where no one has to get hurt, or be put into cold sleep, or taken out by the Gnosia. And it ties up some of the remaining mysteries very well too, without just flat out explaining literally everything to you. Because even after finishing this game, there is still quite a bit of mysteries and things to think about, particularly with Yuriko, who I still don't fully know what her deal is. And honestly, finding a lot of the secret stuff in this game, in general, is just pretty fun, especially with how it can spice up the gameplay in ways you don't anticipate, and make you try and do unorthodox things instead of just playing normally. Though, I will say, there is some stuff that is just really damn tough to find, to the point to where actually triggering the things you need to trigger for the secrets to happen are just really tough, and you have to really delve deep into the unspoken mechanics of every little action. And that's without even mentioning that you at least need to get the crew composition exactly right, and hope the characters you need for these specific events don't get picked off by the Gnosia or chosen for cold sleep, to a point to where after it took me way too long to get a non-completion Essential Comet scene that rewarded me with only like 10 lines of dialogue, and then even trying to remotely get anything related to the super obtuse Gina scene that just wouldn't even begin to start working no matter how many loops I was trying, I was just like, yeah, okay, I think I'll pass in trying to get every single event myself. Like, it's weird. You can do everything right for some of these events, but then you reach the end of the loop and nothing happens. All because the game just didn't feel like giving it to you. So after I collected every single note and unlocked every single skill after seeing those scenes, including the amusing one of Yuriko, which was also very hard to get but quite satisfying to finally acquire, even if it's not really super useful, since by then I was on such a late loop and my stats were just so high that I literally did some experimental loops where I did literally nothing and said nothing the entire time, both as a crewmate with 6 Gnosia and as the sole Gnosia among 15 crewmates, and I won both times because my stats were just so high that I wouldn't be put into cold sleep even if I tried. So getting a super busted skill on top of that didn't really have much of a point, and it's not like there's a new game plus or whatever that you can carry abilities to a new playthrough. But still, it was a fun little victory lap getting those last abilities. But yeah, this game just kind of stunned me and was so not what I was expecting that it's messed up my entire plans for video games this year. Like, by now I would have already played 1 or 2 other visual novels and would have gotten around to finishing some other games, like I really need to finish Nier Automata, for instance. But I've just been left thinking about this game and how cool of an experience it was, that I'm procrastinating leaving the Gnosia headspace, so to say. Heck, I'm even procrastinating on watching Gnosia's anime adaptation that only just recently finished as I was playing the game, because I want to linger on the feelings of the visual novel just that little bit longer. For reference, I started this game about mid-March and reached the true ending less than a week later, and basically haven't played any other game since then. And as of making this video, it's almost June. And what's really interesting is that I wouldn't even say this is like a 10 out of 10 masterpiece of a visual novel or anything like that. But I think this is what's great about the medium of visual novels. That it doesn't have to be the most amazing thing in the world with the highest production values or highest word counts or number of characters and possible endings and romanceable characters or whatever. Like, it doesn't have to have all that. It can just be a cool game. Or, I don't know, maybe I just spouted a bunch of malarkey there. Hey, maybe now that I've spoke my thoughts about this visual novel into the ether, maybe now I can finally move on to something else instead of just laying in bed at night going, damn, but Gnosia though. Well, that was all I had to say in this really random video where I just babble on about a game I played recently. So, if you want, you can leave a comment talking about what you liked about the game, or something. Assuming this video gets more than 0 views, I think that'd be a cool thing to read. And, that's the video.